Anyways, moving on from one never-ending war in a failed state to another. It's time for an update on New South Wales.
Delta farce.
This is literally a war, and we've known we've been in a war for some time.
Yes, for those of you playing lockdown bingo at home as I record this, everywhere seems to be in lockdown, including Melbourne, Canberra, Darwin, all of New South Wales, and even my absolute favourite place to visit when I'm in Australia, New Zealand. And the lockdown of the entire state of New South Wales came very suddenly last weekend.
The news of the stay-at-home order leaking out through social media before New South Wales Health officially gave word less than 2 hours before it came into force.
The official announcement came around 3:30 this afternoon that at 5 p.m, just an hour and a half later, their towns and cities would be locked down.
Yes, just a 90-minute warning that the whole state was being locked down. I mean, you literally could have just walked into a screening of the 2.5-hour Disney movie Jungle Cruise and been kicked out before it ended. And what a tragedy that would have been. You would have missed out on some truly great dialogue like this.
Let's go see some elephants.
There are no elephants in the Amazon, and I don't even like elephants.
Lady, everybody likes elephants.
Yes, inspiring stuff. Well, I think we all know who Disney is hiring to write their scripts these days.
I like turtles. All right.
Anyways, back to us all getting Delta. Here in New South Wales, cases are absolutely out of control, reaching record levels of almost 700 a day yesterday. And this week we had a record day for deaths as well, which makes it all very off-putting. When I go to the supermarket and I'm super anxious and cautious, it's like I feel like I'm walking out into a battle zone. And in the supermarket, they're playing the fastest, loudest 80s pop songs they can think of. I mean, I never thought the deadliest days of the pandemic apocalypse would be soundtracked by Walking on Sunshine and Jump by the Pointer Sisters, but there you go. Anyway, speaking of supermarkets, COVID still appears to be spreading in workplaces here.
We're still finding that people are visiting each other, and we're still finding that workplace transmissions are set off.
Transmission between staff members in workplaces is also a significant problem.
Yes, so with workplaces and households being the obvious main problem, the New South Wales Police, of course, decided to send horsies to the beach.
On the famous sands of Bondi Beach, police on horseback.
And here at Bondi Beach yesterday, we saw the mounted police unit doing laps of the coastline.
Yeah, I mean, that's easily the most pointless reason the police have ever gone to the beach since Police Academy 5, Assignment Miami Beach.
Police Academy 5. Their assignment? Miami Beach. This time, instead of making arrests, they're going to take one.
What'll the New South Wales Police think of next for our city under siege? Citizens on patrol? And much like a plot point from a bad 80s Police Academy movie, the police decided the best way they could stop coronavirus transmission on the beach was by setting up some high-powered video cameras.
Police are using portable security cameras at Sydney's most famous beach as part of a citywide lockdown blitz.
Looks like those cameras are pointing in both directions of the promenade here at Bondi Beach. That has been met with a mixed response from some of the locals.
Yeah, Sergeant, I wasn't sure if the girl had a mask on, so I had to zoom in real close. On her bikini. Surely instead of pointing cameras at beachgoers, the police should just go up to them and tell them to move it. Police Academy references are my lockdown treat. Also in New South Wales, the Delta outbreak is so out of control right now that one of the main elements of our gold standard contact tracing has more or less been abandoned.
New South Wales Health no longer publicly listing most Sydney exposure sites as venues of concern for close and casual contacts. There are too many.
That's prompted a shift in reporting, with venues such as shops and supermarkets no longer appearing on the government's website of exposure sites.
Well, that's one way to stop people hating Bunnings for being an exposure site, is to stop listing Bunnings as being an exposure site. Problem solved. Everyone thinks it's safe. But look, New South Wales is finally looking at the biggest problem so far this outbreak.
Over the past 2 weeks, more than 70% of new cases have been transmitted within a household, mostly amongst family members.
Household transmission is responsible for more than 70% of cases.
And credit where credit is due, New South Wales is finally doing something to try and stop household transmission, though the civil rights implications are quite scary.
The Chief Health Officer today defending powers that allow police to pull people from their homes if deemed a risk to public health.
I can just be confident that our public health doctors do not issues Section 62s for no reason.
Checking in on a positive case at Greystanes, police in full PPE as they break the news to Gabriel Chalu. He's off to a health hotel.
I don't know, maybe it's a mix-up.
Confused but happy to comply, the concreter heads off for an indefinite stay.
Look, it's called a Section 62 and it's a morally tricky situation. On one hand, forcibly quarantining COVID-positive cases in many hotels so they don't infect their families or others in the community makes sense. And many believes it is what helped Taiwan beat Delta back from 600 cases a day to single digits. But on the other hand, Australia really doesn't have a good record of looking after the welfare of people when we forcibly remove them from the community and separate them from their families. Oh, it's something we've done a lot of in the past, but we don't really think about the emotional and psychological consequences of locking someone up when they've literally done no crimes. Meanwhile, in Victoria, they're also dealing with their own worrying and escalating Delta outbreak, leading Premier Dan Andrews to announce this new restriction on the weekend.
There will be no removal of masks to consume alcohol outdoors. So you will no longer be able to remove your mask to drink a cocktail at a pop-up beer garden on a footpath as part of a pub crawl.
Yeah, so get ready for Melbourne pubs to start offering beer waterboarding. Lay down and relax and leave your mask on as you think you're drowning in delicious organic craft beer. Kombucha also available. Also in the news,
precious cargo from Poland has arrived.
Please be pierogies, please be pierogies, please be pierogies.
And a delivery of Pfizer has arrived from Poland as slots for the shot are open to teachers and supermarket workers in hotspot areas.
Yeah, look, that's great, but I'm sure after 8 weeks of lockdown, Sydney teachers and supermarket workers would much rather have a free bottle of Polish vodka. Am I right? But, you know, Pfizer's good too. So how did Australia get this wartime gift from Warsaw?
So Australia's been reaching out, not just in our own region, but we've been making friends all around the world. And we were very quickly on the phone. But because we had an existing relationship, that obviously helped. And I want to thank Prime Minister Morawiecki for his great support of Australia in answering our call.
Yeah, is it just me or does it sound like Scott Morrison just took the bloody phone book out and started calling all the countries in there? I wonder if he started alphabetically. Like, hello, Afghanistan? You haven't got any spare Pfizer lying around, do you? What do you mean you knew there? We'll ask someone who's there with you. All men? Really? No women in the cabinet at all? Ooh, well, you'll have to tell me how you got away with that. Anyways, with COVID zero now a distant memory, perpetual lockdowns the new normal around the whole country, and Australia bracing itself imminently for thousands of cases a day, our wartime Prime Minister stepped up with an inspiring and rousing wartime speech.
I want to say thank you to Australia. As we continue to battle the most difficult phase of the COVID-19 pandemic, I want to thank every single person who was pushing through. We are not going to give up. We are not going to give in. I know as each day, as you there, particularly those who are at home, and you hear the news each day, and you hear the numbers, and you hear the challenges, I understand that can be very disheartening, that it can get you down. But let's not give up. That's not our nature. Let's not give in to that. Let's continue to look forward. Sometimes you can only see the tunnel and not the light. But I want to tell you, the light is there.
Wow, what soaring rhetoric. Yes, there's definitely a light. It's the light of the cop car when they're coming to take you away after you got COVID at a Bunnings because you thought it was safe. But, you know, that's still a light. Anyways, yes, Morrison said we shouldn't give up. But geez, I wish he'd give that advice to the New South Wales Premier.
As the Premier admits, getting to 0 cases is now beyond us.
I think all of us accept that completely eliminating Delta is something that is near impossible.
The Premier unable to rule out reaching thousands a day.
We absolutely could if people keep ignoring the rules. So what the data is telling us in the last few days is that we haven't seen the worst of it. We are assuming that case numbers will go up in September and October, which will be our most difficult months. We now have to live with Delta in one way or another.
Yes, in New South Wales, we may be in
literally a war.
But it also feels like our
political leaders gave up and fled the country.
All right, everyone, that's Newsfighters for today, August the 20th, 2021. Newsfighters is written, produced and edited by me, Dylan Bain, for Sans Pants Radio. Don't forget, subscribe to us on YouTube and or your audio podcasting app of choice. To support the show and get bonus episodes, pay to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or join our Patreon at patreon.com/newsfighters. Or if you're enjoying the show, buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/newsfighters. And a big thank you to Harry, Jonathan, Luke, Rob, and everyone else who bought me a coffee over the last couple of weeks. That's a lot of coffee. I'm very caffeinated. Also, don't forget, sign up for our free Substack newsletter at newsfighters.com and hit us up on Twitter and Instagram at NewsFightersPod. Get your vax, wear a mask, wash your hands, and bye for now.
This is News Fighters, where we fight the news so you don't have to.
Completely eliminating Delta